So my game, Spooky Survivors, is launching today, tonight. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the experience of making the game, testing the game, the QA, and overall the development cycle of what was my first small game, so to say. And the thing about Spooky Survivors is it's something completely different from anything that I've done before. And that is what drew me to make it, because I was in a place where, I was doing a lot of 3D work, level design, and I love doing that, but I just wanted to try something different. And so I'm not much of a 2D gamer, but I decided to give it a go and make my own 2D game. Now the game does lack a lot of things like color theory, animation, stuff like that, but I think it has its own sense of charm in how it was made. The game is inspired by Brotato, which is, when it comes to 2D games, probably my favorite game, and of course a little bit of Vampire Survivors. Now, while it is a lot like Brotato in terms of how it feels and plays, there are also a lot of different things that set it apart from Brotato. A lot of gameplay mechanics. Visually it's very different. It's more like The Binding of Isaac than it is Brotato in terms of visuals. And the way that it feels and the things that you can do in the game are very different. And so it is inspired only in terms of the genre, so to say, and just some of the mechanics in the game. But what makes my game a little bit different is the way that the upgrades work. Instead of buying weapons after rounds or getting items from enemies, you have each possible upgrade unlocked from the beginning, but you have to decide which ones to upgrade yourself. So you start with everything unlocked, but it's all at level 1, where you can then choose to spend the credits that you get from killing enemies to upgrade the ones that you see fit. So if you want a high DPS build, you would upgrade your ranged damage and speed. If you want a tank build, you could upgrade your health, your total health, and your melee speed and damage. You could do a ranged build. Now, while it's not quite as advanced or complex as Brotato's system, it does have a fraction of that flexibility. But another system that's in my game that I think is quite unique is the altar system. So you play as Van Hobo, who is sort of like it's obviously a nod to Van Helsing, but you are a hobo that is in a park when this game starts, and you then have to defend yourself against the hordes of the night. But in this little realm, you are a champion of the Celestials, which is just a little silly made-up deity that I thought into existence. So the Celestials are sort of like your god, and you can pray to the Celestials to get what I call blessings in the game. So you use prayers, which are also gotten from enemies, but you don't just get them, you have to go and pick them up. And this also opens up a potential upgrade path where you can upgrade your pickup range and speed. And so a lot of these systems work in tandem with each other to create a sort of just a fluid experience for the mechanics. And I think it's a fun game. I think it's worth a play if you like this kind of game. The blessing system is then a system where you can get certain blessings or buffs. So if you get a buff, you could get, say, double your movement speed for 45 seconds, or if you get a buff, you could, if you get a blessing, you could get arrows that fall out of the sky for 45 seconds. And these are just things that help you. I felt that the game needed a second currency and something to spend money on, and in this case the money is prayers and the shop is an altar. So those are just some of the systems in the game. I don't want this to be too long, so I'm just gonna keep going. So this is definitely the shortest game that I've ever made in terms of just a cohesive experience that you can play and be done with. The game doesn't take long to play. It takes about 25 minutes to finish, a session. It's 20 waves per round, and there are 4 difficulty levels. So if you, obviously the idea is to get the game finished on difficulty 4, but I will say the game is not as difficult as Brotato either. Now, with this game, I focused a lot on not letting scope creep be a factor in the development experience, and so I focused on being consistent, firstly, and also not adding things that weren't originally part of the plan. Now, a little bit of that did seep into development, as it always does, but I feel that I maintained a good timeline. The game was made in 4 months, and it is only part-time, as this is just one of the things that I do in game development. And I thought to myself, there are many things that I want to add. For instance, I want to add a little goblin that when you kill him, you get a whole bunch of prayers. Just a little treasure goblin, for instance. That's one thing that I want to add. Or I want to add a shop system down the line. But instead of taking more time to add it to this game, I thought to myself, if this game reaches any level of success, or even if I just want to, I'll make another one and add these things in the second one. I think that is a better approach in terms of keeping your games realistic in scope. The game was really fun to make. It was something different. I'm getting a little bit tired of it now, but it was something different, something that I've never made anything like this. I always make action shooter games, and of course it has a very unique art style. Now you can check some of the devlogs if you want to see what the art style was, but basically I would draw everything just with a pen, just a little cheap big pen, on paper, and then I would digitize it on the computer with Photoshop. So it's a very elementary handmade sort of style, sort of like Binding of Isaac. Not going to get too much into it, but being a 3D artist, usually it's something very different. The game had only a handful of wish lists. I think it had about 250 wish lists. Since it was such a short time that I developed it in, it didn't really get a chance to really launch itself off of the ground. And I also think it doesn't help that this sort of genre is now getting into the tapped out segment of the market where there are so many of these games. And so I'm not really expecting any real success, maybe a couple $100. If you are new to game development, it can be a shock to see how little you can make. I'm talking specifically about Steam. I do have other plans for the game. But if you are someone that's getting into game development, chances are you're going to make about $500 with a game, especially a game like this. The game will be cheap. I'm going to sell it for $3. And the thing about this game is that I didn't make it for profit. I made it to learn a new genre of game and a new sort of way to do art and game design, and just learn new things, because that's what being a developer is all about. But you do need money to survive. And at the end of the day, I had a lot of fun making it. It was something different. I am going to get back to my usual games for now. Have things to do. I have to get back on the Gravebane Curse. Most people watching this channel will just want me to do that. The Gravebane Curse is of course the Kingsfield clone game. Have to get back on that this year. But this was a good little distraction, and it has helped me to get ready for what I need to be focusing on for the rest of the year. I am not done with the devlogs for this game. I have to do 2 more devlogs. Now, it's going to be a little bit weird because I'm going to release them after I've already released the game, but that's just how it worked out with how busy I am. Because to be honest with you, my bread and butter right now is asset packs. So it's been a little bit of a difficult experience to make videos, devlogs and stuff like that. And I'm finding my feet with YouTube. I'm still not sure how I want to do YouTube, if I even want to do YouTube, but I'm just doing it as it comes to me. So yeah, it was a fun experience. I think it's a very polished game. That's one thing that I forgot to mention quickly. Having such a short game allows you to polish the shit out of it. And you know, with the previous game, Operator 8, it was an 8-hour game for the player, and you know, I think it was a good game, but there are issues, and that is because you can only QA so much when you're 1 or 2 people. But with a game like this that is going to last the player an hour, there is actually enough time, even in a couple of months, to QA everything and to get it perfect. Now, I doubt that the game will be perfect. I'm sure there will be issues, but I have ironed out 95% of possible issues, and I think that's a valuable thing to have. So to close out here, if you like the idea of the game, if you just want to support me, check it out. I think it's a very fun game. I think it's priced correctly, because I'm not gonna lie to myself and say that it's a $10 game when it is a $3 game. So I've priced it at $3. They are starting to source something outside here, so I think that's my cue. Thanks for watching. Please check out the game. If you do end up buying it, leave a review, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.